Okay, so let's talk about tip number 4 of 5 in increasing your bottom line, and that's going to be finance and insurance income. So, the approach that most of us take when we look at finance and insurance income is what's our PVR and maybe what's our products per delivery. And we just look at that and look at that as a benchmark, right? So, if we're at $2,000 or 2 products per delivery, we're happy and we say, all right, that's good. Let's move on to something else, and we don't dig in any further. But here's an area that I tell you to dig in a little bit more. And so let's go through a few examples of why you should look at it and what things to look for. So the first thing to look for is what are you selling? Where are you generating income? Rate versus product. I always found it funny that the warranty companies always came up with this wonderful theory that you shouldn't mark up rate too much, because if you mark up rate, then there's a high likelihood of cancellation, and you're not going to, and they'll cancel the products that you sell later. So try and keep the rate down and sell more products. Well, that's self-serving, right? That's those guys are doing what they're supposed to do, and that is to uh, push you and convince you to sell more of their product. So rate is not bad. I would tell you shop the rate, get better rates, and hold on to rate. Most of your dealer agreements with the lenders are now limited to chargebacks after, was it 3 payments or 90 days of payments or something along those lines, unless it's a default on the loan. Versus products. On products, when that loan gets paid off, there's a letter that's going out to every retail customer reminding them that they might have a warranty or gap insurance and cancel those products. Or there's a cancellation that happens 2 or 3 months down the road on those products, and you lose out on your income. It's much less frequent for somebody to refinance their car that quickly into the loan. So I would focus on rate. Again, be fair. I got 3 basic principles that actually were taught to me by a GSM I had when I was early in my career, and he said to follow 3 rules, and everything else is going to be easy, and every decision will be easy to do. And so those 3 rules was, is it legal, moral, and ethical? Right. So follow the legal, moral, ethical rules, and if it falls within that, then it's good, right? Everybody might have different variations on what's moral and what's ethical, but legals are pretty clear and cut one. But just be fair, right? So if you're holding 2 points on reserve, nothing wrong with that, especially if you're able to negotiate down the buy rate, because you've got a good relationship with the lender, especially if the customer has some blips on their credit and you're able to push to get that better rate. So don't be afraid of making rate. So that's the first thing. Now let's go into products and how we want to make money on products. So basic ones, warranty, gap insurance, those are self-explanatory. That's kind of the bread and butter of finance products. Warranty, certainly the first one that I would go to, brings that customer back into the dealership over and over again when they're out of warranty. So let's make sure that we are penetrating on that, and just take a look at what you're selling, right? What level of product, what brand of product. If you've got other vendors coming in and you're not controlling which warranty products you're selling, there might be bonuses going to your finance manager. There might be a number of other things that are happening that are priced in there that you need to just be made aware of. So look at what you're making. I think rule of thumb is whatever the cost is, you should be doubling that, and that should be a selling price, and your profit should be the difference. So that's just a basic rule of thumb. It could be more. Some states are regulated, some states aren't regulated on pricing. So it all depends on what's happening in your state. Gap insurance, same thing. You can have multiple gap insurance companies. Be careful. You just want to make sure, especially now with cars and they're over advanced and upside down, you want to be careful on what product you're selling, whose product you're selling. And if you're selling multiple products, just focus on one. Find the best one and sell that one. And keep it simple, and look at what your margin is on that policy as well. So let's move beyond that, right? So let's assume you have a pay plan that pays or has some kind of grid system, and you pay based on total PVR and a products per deal. And some grid there, right, might start out at 10%, goes up to 15, 16, 17%, whatever that grid might look like. And so you're going to have finance managers that are going to work the pay plan like any other manager in the dealership. So when they go to sell these additional products, if they go to sell, especially if you're pushing them to get over 2 products per delivery, which I would assume you probably are, they go to sell road hazard, dent, ding, you name it, all kinds of other etch, whatever else might be out there. Are you regulating what that product can be sold for, right? So if they're selling that product and they're making $100 of profit on that product, it's a $500 product, they're making $100, so they're retailing it for $600, but it throws them up into that 2.6, 2.7 products per delivery, which pays them an extra 2% on their total payout. So you're making an extra $100, but probably paying out that much or more on what you're selling. So why have that? Why promote it that way? Why set up a pay plan that way? So set up a threshold on what you want to make on those products in order for it to make sense for you. Same thing with any spiffs that you're paying out on products. Same thing with any spiffs that your warranty provider is paying out on any products. Make sure that they're spiffing what benefits you and the dealership versus what benefits the warranty provider. So take a look at it, understand it. It can get complex. There's a lot of moving parts to it, but just take your time and start understanding it. And I think you'll see that by tweaking a couple of things on the order of the products or setting thresholds of what you're willing to sell a product for, you can probably see $100, $200, $300 PVR increase in your finance department. Same thing with just shifting to rate, right? Just holding a little bit more on rate versus pushing products, because your pay plan is geared towards product sales. You might be able to pick up more on rate. So just be careful how you structure it. There's no perfect pay plan. It's just how you monitor it and watch what your team is doing. I've tried different ones where it's a total income per manager, and I pay just a percentage based on the total income they generated. So if it was 0 to 75,000 in finance income, they'd get 13-14%. If they went over 75,000 to 100, they might jump into 15-16% category. And I did that because I didn't want them to be pushing away cash deals or lease deals that maybe didn't have the opportunity to make so much back-end money. But then I've also tried the grids, and that's worked for me as long as I monitor which products are getting sold. But either way, either scenario, however your pay plans look, just make sure that you look at what products are getting sold. If you can shift the sale of those products anywhere else, reserve being probably the number one selection. Again, I'm not telling you don't bump every deal 3 points and all kinds of crazy stuff. Just be reasonable. I just don't want you putting something out at a buy rate to then go sell products because your pay plan is driven so much by products per delivery. And then look at the products that you're selling. What profit are you making on each product? If you see that you're selling a ton of road hazard, but you're making $100 road hazard, and total sales price is $400 or $500 on a road hazard policy, then what's the point of selling that? That's a $10 bump on a payment. I'd rather go back and sell something else to the customer or increase my road hazard profit. So set a threshold for that, or offer another product that would still give the customer a benefit and allow me to make a higher PVR.